They've had enough. Another orchestra strike, another rent increase, another adjunct contract, and another sad story about a talented musician leaving the profession entirely. At some point, many talented American musicians say, maybe it's time I leave the United States for Europe. For many Americans, the European music scene has become a kind of fantasy. Government funded orchestras, free healthcare, generous vacations, opera houses in every city, and a society that treats classical musicians like they have some value. Meanwhile, here in America, some of us feel like we're constantly needing to justify the very existence of the arts. But is Europe actually better, or are we just comparing America's problems with Europe's promises? And would getting on that plane to make a permanent move to Europe actually make American musicians' lives better? The appeal of Europe is very easy to understand. In much of Europe, classical music is woven into the very cultural fabric of society in a way that it often isn't here in America. Governments often subsidize orchestras, opera companies, and conservatories. And that governmental support you find in many countries in Europe is simply not often matched in America. And there's a subtle but very critical difference in mindset because in America, often the question is, should the arts be subsidized by government entities at all? The debate exists in Europe too, but usually it's about how much of a subsidy should there be, not whether or not there should be one at all. And that really is an attractive distinction because in America, we're often trying to justify our very existence as musicians, but in Europe, the question is more, how much should we give you? That difference creates the impression that things must automatically be better in Europe, but the truth is a little bit more complicated. For example, with orchestral jobs, in America, we often have the highest paying jobs per gross income. With a position in the New York Philharmonic, LA Phil, Philadelphia Orchestra, you can earn a really respectably high salary, even a very good starting salary that you just probably won't get most of the time in Europe. In terms of raw salary, America is hard to beat. The key point is that there are very few of those jobs in America, and the difference between a top 5, top 7 orchestra in America and a regional orchestra, the difference in those salaries is huge. There may be two musicians of very similar talent level where one is living completely off their orchestral salary and the other it got a position in an orchestra because it was there, and they're having to cobble together a life from orchestra, private teaching, teaching in 3 colleges, and although they play at almost the same level, their lives could be completely different. In Europe, the situation is definitely different. Salaries in general are lower, but there's a lot more support, financial support, for institutions like orchestras and operas and conservatories. A musician working in a German orchestra, for example, may never get that high salary, but they may be living with less financial uncertainty in their lives. Healthcare, pensions, paid leave, labor protections in Europe, they help provide a safety net to a European musician. Maybe the simplest way to put it is America offers you a taller ladder where Europe offers you a bigger safety net. The academic situation is very similar. In America, colleges and universities can offer salaries that are simply hard to match elsewhere. For those who secure tenure-track positions, the rewards can be substantial. The challenge, of course, is getting one of those positions. The amount of applicants far outweighs the number of positions, and when people get a job, they tend to stay in that job. So many musicians end up working years, sometimes even decades, doing multiple adjunct positions and private teaching to cobble together a reasonable salary for themselves. Now, European institutions definitely face some of the same problems, but labor protections and employee protections are often stronger there. The salaries there may not reach the same level of American salaries in colleges and universities, but again, the safety net, the social safety net is stronger there. So once again, we're seeing the same trade-off. America offers you higher ceilings. Europe offers you a sturdier floor. Now, one of the biggest mistakes people make when comparing European and American salaries, and not just in music, is the actual number of that salary and not so much what you get for that job. Imagine, for an example, an American musician earning $120,000 compared to a musician in Europe earning, say, $70,000. On the surface, it seems like there's a big pay gap there. But once you account for housing expenses, health care, child care, medical, transportation costs, vacation time, that gap, the difference between the lifestyle, can get smaller and smaller. Now, that doesn't mean that living in Europe is automatically cheaper. Several European cities have problems with their social systems of their own. Taxes, as a rule, are higher than America. Bureaucracies can be very difficult to navigate. But if you're simply comparing paycheck to paycheck, you're really oversimplifying things and you may be missing the point. A salary is just a number. A lifestyle is what that number can really do. There's also something that feels harder to measure: what it feels like to be a musician in America versus Europe. An American musician who relocates to Europe may find that classical music and culture in general is part of the daily life there. You're surrounded by centuries of musical history. You can rehearse in a city where Bach worked, where Mahler conducted, or where Mozart premiered one of his operas. That cultural continuity can be inspiring. At the same time, America possesses strengths that are often overlooked. For example, American audiences can be extremely enthusiastic. American musicians can be extremely entrepreneurial. And America rewards those who work hard and fight hard for themselves. Rather than waiting for institutions or governments to create opportunities, we Americans are more likely to make opportunities for ourselves. We're the ones who are going to go out and, in addition to that regular job, also look for part-time teaching, private teaching, recording projects, or online projects. Europe often preserves culture. America sometimes reinvents it. The two have value. So should American musicians just say, "I'm out of here, I'm moving to Europe"? I don't think the answer is so simple. The more I've looked into this question over the years, the more I've found that it comes down to your personal priorities rather than an objective answer. If your primary goal is maxing out your income and finding opportunity, America is still probably the better place. If, however, you favor that cultural connection, the safety, the knowledge that your culture supports what you're doing as a musician, then maybe Europe's a better place. The real question isn't what system is better, it's actually what trade-offs do you have to make. One system says if you succeed, the rewards can be enormous. The other system says if you fail, don't worry, we won't let you fall so far. But here's the main point: neither promise is guaranteed, neither is free. And no matter what side of the Atlantic you're on, you're still going to have auditions, difficult colleagues, hard decisions to make about lifestyle. You'll still have budget pressures, and you may still have moments of self-doubt. After all, you're still you no matter where you go. Geography can change many things, but it doesn't change the challenge of being a musician. As you consider this decision, just remember, it isn't the case that the grass is greener on one or the other side of the Atlantic. It's just maintained differently. Thank you so much for watching. Leave me your thoughts and comments. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.